Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the May 12th, 2025 meeting of the El Dorado Irrigation District Board of Directors to order. Please rise and join me in the pledge. Or do we have to do roll call? Good.
It was a trial.
Just testing us. I was following orders. I was standing.
Yeah, oh, good.
They all stood.
Directors Penn, Mansfield, Dwyer, and Zini, and Day present. Director Penn is participating remotely as disclosed on today's agenda. General Manager Abercrombie, General Counsel Polson, and Board Clerk Sullivan present. Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kevin, hold on here for a second. Can you change the view so the board can also see Paul Penn? Or Director Penn, excuse me. President Dwyer, staff has requested that item 5 be removed from today's agenda.
I'll move we adopt today's agenda absent item 5.
Thank you, Director Day.
And I'll move that consent item number 12 be removed.
No. What Director Day moved is the adoption of today's agenda with the removal of item 5 that will not be discussed at all on today's agenda. We're just removing item 5.
I'll second Director Day's motion.
Okay, thank you. Any public comment? Any board comment? Any public comment on the agenda?
So just so we know, Director Penn is participating as a panelist, and we will, check in with him. However, he is able to mute and unmute himself. I'm not controlling that, so if at any time he has a comment, he will participate, but we will check in on him shortly. We'll see him on our screen. The public actually can see him on their screen. We just currently have a different view. And since Director Penn is participating remotely, all of today's votes will be done via roll call vote in division order, with our board chair voting last. So if any members of the public would like to address the board on the adoption of today's agenda, please refer to the detailed instructions on page 2 of today's agenda. It does not appear there are any members of the public wishing to speak on the adoption of today's agenda with the removal of item 5 moved by Day and seconded by Director Mansfield. How do you vote, Division 1?
Aye.
Division 3?
Aye.
Please, when you're voting, that you speak into the microphone. Division 4?
Aye.
Division 5?
Aye.
Division 2?
Aye.
Division 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, voting aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Communications from the general manager.
No further recognition than today.
Pardon? Yes, you do.
You got it.
I apologize. We do have a recognition today. The district received an email from Kevin Park, an EID customer, expressing his appreciation for the outstanding service provided by Garrett Maytack, Ricky Viramontes, Hans Bolts, and Wes Hampshire, construction and maintenance workers in the water division. After discovering a leak late at night, Mr. Park contacted the district's emergency line and received a prompt response. The team quickly organized the repair and completed the work professionally and timely, and left the site well clean and well presented. Mr. Park extended his gratitude with a special thank you for a job well done. Again, providing excellent service is what we try and do here. Thank you.
Thanks. It's always good to recognize our outstanding team members, so thank you. Okay, any public comment on items that are not on the agenda?
If members of the public would like to address the board, please refer to the detailed instructions on page 2 of today's agenda. President Dwyer, it does not appear there are any members of the public wishing to speak.
Okay, then we'll move on to communications. Jim, do you have other?
Just one for the board and the public. We did receive a copy of the grand jury report regarding EID's financing, and we will be preparing a draft response for the board's consideration in June. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen, do you have anything?
Nothing today, thank you.
How about board members?
Yeah, last Tuesday I had the opportunity to attend the Ag in the Classroom Farm Day for our youth at the El Dorado County Fairgrounds. And EID hosted a joint table with the water agency. And I just wanted to comment on how great of a job everybody involved did. And it seemed that the hundreds of kids that were there were really enjoying themselves. So it was a wonderful day.
They're our future, and they're third graders?
Yeah, it's a combination of second and third graders, yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
amazing.
Karen Cross took the lead on that for us and did an outstanding job. Thank
They
you.
mentioned you in the water agency report, too. Okay, good. Any other board member comments? Nope. Paul, nothing? Okay.
None for me.
Okay, then we'll move to the consent calendar.
President Dwyer, Director Penn has requested to pull item number 12 for discussion.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar minus item number 12?
I make a motion that we approve items 1 through 11.
We'll actually just approve because item 5 was removed.
Okay.
So
Thank you for the correction.
we'll approve the consent calendar. Item 5 has already been removed and item 12 has been pulled for discussion. So
I make a motion that we do that.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any public comment?
if members of the public would like to address the board on the adoption of today's consent calendar, please refer to the instructions in today's agenda. President Dwyer, it does not appear any members of the public are wishing to speak on the approval of today's consent calendar, with item 5 already moved at its adoption and Director Penn pulling item number 12. I believe we're ready for the vote.
Okay, it's a roll call. Please take the vote.
How do you vote, Division 1,
Aye.
Division 3,
Aye.
Division 4,
Aye.
Division 5,
Aye.
Division 2,
Aye.
Division 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, voting aye, motion carries unanimously.
Okay, let's move to discussion of the item that was pulled, item number 12. This is for our representative and special district for LAFCO. And I had potentially selected Paul Gilchrist as our representative. And we'll open it to discussion.
I think Director Penn pulled it, so.
Let it-
Yep.
Thank you, Chairman Dwyer. Just want to say that I know, like, and respect both of the candidates. I work with them in various capacities. As an EID board member, I think it's important to have a strong advocate for water on LAFCO. LAFCO has got a lot of power and does a lot of things to determine the future of this county. Michael Saunders has been attending as an alternate for 6 years, is well-versed in the ongoing activities of LAFCO. He is currently the acting special district representative to fill the vacancy. He's also well-versed in fire, and he is experienced in the nuances of LAFCO. And I think in terms of EID, I think it's important to have an advocate for water, as I stated earlier, and I think Michael Saunders would be a good candidate. And there is no disrespect to Paul Gilchrist. Again, I know he does very good work, and I respect him, and I know him from my work on the Fire Safe Council. That's my statement. Thank you.
Are you making a motion, Director Penn? Or just comment?
At this point, I just comment at this point for discussion. As our representative, Director Dwyer can make the vote, but I just want to provide my input and like the input of other members of the board.
So we need a first and a second before we get into discussion. We could ask questions, but a first and a second should be on the table if you're just discussing rather than asking questions.
Is that your first? Are you nominating?
I believe it is the discretion of our current representative to make the vote, but I could get some clarity on that.
Oh, okay.
Anyone can make a motion on this item, and for the record, Director Mansfield is our association representative as appointed by the board earlier this year. However, the reason why it was President Dwyer's item is LAFCO requires a board president's signature. That's why it's Director Dwyer's item as opposed to Director Mansfield. But Director Mansfield is the representative. However, just please know that any board member can make a motion and a second, even if it's just for discussion.
So we'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I will entertain a motion that we appoint Mike Saunders as the LAFCO, suggested that our president vote for him, our selected person. Mike Saunders has a background in water. Yes, he's from
Okay,
Georgia.
let's have a first
Okay.
and a second.
Then we'll have the discussion.
Thank
So
you.
then you'll have
Can I-
Paul as a,
Can I make
as
a
the
reason,
second,
please?
as
Yes.
Paul is second.
Yes, I make a motion, and then we can discuss.
Do we have a second?
No.
Well, I will second, and because, Paul, it's tradition that the board president present
Right.
their recommendation, but the board sometimes follows it, and the board sometimes doesn't. So there's no ironclad rule that, oh, you have to follow the recommendation. So I will second Director Anzini's
I was-
motion that we appoint Michael as the representative at LAFCO. He has served as the alternate for a long time. He's very experienced. And to second Director Penn's comment, he has the background in water, which I think would serve us well.
And we can make a comment now.
Okay,
Okay, let me finish my comment. Sorry. All those things regarding Mike, but again, the president has the right to make that selection. And in the past, This has happened before, and Mike Saunders was brought up, and it was overruled, and Mike did not get appointed, but he still stayed as an alternate the whole time. So again, having more people who know about water on LAFCO is really important, including our own representative, the EID member.
Any other comments? Okay, I'll comment on Paul Gilchrist and why I chose him. I think that, number one, he's a resident in our service area, and he's active in the community. He's involved with the fire safe councils. He understands a lot about our organization and the service district. He's also a ratepayer. And I think the LAFCO will be faced with many decisions. Probably the most important will be about fire districts, whereas we will be affected by some LAFCO decisions and creating special districts and new development adjacent to, within our service area. So that's why I selected him to represent us in LAFCO. A pretty thankless job, actually. So I guess we're,
So the motion on the table is option 2, moved by Director Anzini and seconded by Director Day. Take other action as directed by the board and vote Michael Saunders as our number 1 and Paul Gilchrist as number 2. I just wasn't quite sure how to say his last name. That's the motion on the board, unless you're making a motion, President Dwyer, and alternative motion.
no. I think that we open for public comment.
Yes. If members of the public would like to address the board on consent calendar item number 12, please refer to the detailed instructions on page 2 of today's agenda. President Dwyer, it does not appear there are any members of the public wishing to speak on consent calendar item number 12. Would you like me to call for the vote?
Yes, please.
The vote, we're voting on option 2, take other action as directed by the board, moved by Director Anzini, seconded by Director Day, to vote for Michael Saunders, number 1, and Paul Gilchrist as number 2. How do you vote, Division 1?
Aye.
Division 3?
Nay.
Division 4?
Aye.
Division 5?
Aye.
Division 2?
No.
Division 1, 4, and 5 voting aye. Division 2 and 3 voting no. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you all. We'll move to the public hearing on our EIR for Flume 45.
Morning, Board. Mike Barron, Environmental Review Analyst. The microphone?
I think you're talking too far away.
Oh, there we go. Morning, Board. My name's Mike Barron, Environmental Review Analyst here at the district. Today I'll be presenting the Flume 45 Critical Water System Infrastructure Project Final Environmental Impact Report for your consideration. Here's an outline of the topics I'll be presenting to you today. I'll discuss the background and provide an overview of the project.
I'm sorry, I apologize. The public hearing was opened at 9:19. My apologies.
Okay. I'll just kind of back up a little bit. So this is an outline of the topics to present to you today. Again, I'll discuss the background and provide an overview of the project, explain the environmental review process as it relates to CEQA, and then I'll ask for your consideration and certification of the EIR, as well as your approval of the project consistent with CEQA. Previous board actions were to adopt a resolution authorizing the submittal of a grant application and award the contract to prepare the EIR. Here we have a location map for the project. It's located in the Riverton area, south of Highway 50 and south of the American River along the El Dorado Canal. You can kind of see on the map there, the river up at the top, adjacent to Highway 50 in the middle, and then the little red shape there is the canal and Flume 45 location.
In that particular area.
It's very steep, yes. It's located on the hillside there, above the river, on very steep terrain. And I'll get into that a little bit later.
Thank
I
you.
have some photos too. Here we have a photo taken from the downstream end of Flume 45, facing east. It's a wooden flume structure. It's located in densely vegetated area, which makes it highly susceptible to wildfire. Here we have another photo of the wooden support structures of Flume 45. And you can obviously see here that it's located on very steep terrain, which also further increases the risk of wildfire. And it's also susceptible to damage from rock and tree fall. You can see the slope at the left end of the photo there that goes down to Highway 50 and the river.
Thank you.
When was that flume first built?
I believe that flume was reconstructed in
Not reconstructed, or the original?
the original flume. From that one was 1870s, yes.
Yes. I always appreciate that, our history. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, and I have a photo here to get into a little bit of that history for you here. This is a photo of the rock wall foundation taken underneath of the bottom of the downstream spillway. It's pretty steep to get over there. It's a little dangerous to walk underneath now. But in this location, the flume is actually supported by a rock wall foundation that was constructed as the original construction of the flume in the 1870s. It's part of a number of historic rock wall segments. We have 8 currently in the district remaining along the canal that make up this discontinuous rock wall district. You can also see the metal support structure that was built by PG&E as additional support. However, the wall's been slowly bulging out underneath it. And the project would require demolition of the historic wall and reconstruction using a MSE type wall to meet factors of safety required by current engineering standards. I'll also further discuss the demolition of the wall in later slides.
But I think an important point is it's not really accessible for perhaps history buffs or people that want to go.
No, it's behind, I believe, 2 locked gates for this access.
Okay,
And
thanks.
there's not a readily available trailhead or anything over there. Proposed project here that I'd like to talk about today would replace the wood flume with a wildfire-resistant concrete structure As shown in the example below, that's the former Flume 5 that was reconstructed using a concrete canal. Project objectives, the board is aware. The El Dorado Canal supplies over a third of the district's water supply. Therefore, the objectives of this project are to protect our facilities from wildfire, ensure reliable water supply, improve safety, and operational reliability. The proposed project is subject to review under CEQA. The purpose of CEQA is to uncover any potential environmental effects, find ways to prevent, avoid, or lessen substantial impacts, encourage public participation, and promote collaborative partnerships between agencies and the public. The timeline for that process, it provides a number of opportunities for public participation. For this project, staff issued a notice of preparation and draft EIR. And today we are here asking the board to adopt the final EIR. As part of the CEQA process, staff conducted extensive public outreach. As shown, staff sent notifications to various state and local entities. Typically, many of our flume replacement projects are exempt from CEQA. However, this project required preparation of the EIR due to the significant unavoidable impacts related to demolition of the historic rock wall. And the purpose of the EIR is to describe the existing environmental conditions, explore potential environmental effects of the project, examine potential alternatives for the project, and present ways to reduce significant environmental effects and foster agency and public participation in the process. More specifically, the EIR process requires preparation of a draft EIR that provides in-depth analysis of potential environmental effects. It's when resource-specific studies like your biological and cultural resource surveys are provided, when the project alternatives are weighed out, and when the mitigation measures are developed. For this project, these are the resource categories that required mitigation to reduce impacts to a less than significant level, and those are included in a mitigation monitoring reporting program, or MMRP. However, not all impacts could be reduced to less than significant, and that's the demolition of our rock wall. It was considered significant unavoidable impact under CEQA. Therefore, staff developed a mitigation measure to document the rock wall by taking measurements and photos in order to preserve the character-defining features of the wall. However, even with this mitigation measure, CEQA still considers this impact adverse effect to a historic resource as significant and unavoidable because it's still going to be gone. Talking a little bit about comments received on the draft EIR through the public and agency outreach. We received one comment from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife that recommended additional surveys and monitoring for foothill yellow-legged frog during construction. Staff provided additional information clarifying why additional surveys and monitoring would not be necessary based on one, the lack of suitable habitat or proximity to riparian areas, the steep terrain that serves as a natural barrier from the frogs migrating uphill, and recently the surveys and federal consultation completed in the same area in support of the El Dorado Canal fuel break project also concluded that there is no suitable habitat for foothill yellow-legged frog in this particular project area.
So those smart frogs are even afraid to go up to that
They
spot.
won't go uphill, no.
Just a quick
Climbing
question.
equipment.
We only,
time to figure that out.
yeah. Did we only, with all that outreach and effort and the things you had listed, we only received one
One comment, yes.
comment from a public agency, the state? Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Next slide. So the final EIR before you today, it includes the response to comments as presented in the previous slide, minor edits and clarifications, the mitigation monitoring and reporting program, or MMRP, that outlines the specific measures previously described, and ultimately no changes were necessary to the draft EIR findings and conclusions. Now I'll talk about each one of the steps necessary to complete the CEQA process in the following slides. The first step in completing the CEQA review requires that the lead agency or decision-making body, the board, certify the final EIR. Furthermore, CEQA requires that the board make specific findings regarding the potential significant impacts and describe how the mitigation measure helped reduce those effects. So this document in the findings of fact, or documented in the findings of fact. For this project, there are significant environmental effects associated with the demolition of the historic rock wall, and therefore the board is also required to adopt a statement of overriding considerations when approving the project. The MMRP provides a framework for implementing the measures adopted and incorporated into the project to mitigate or avoid significant effects. And approval of the project under CEQA does not commit the district to proceeding with the project. Rather, CEQA approval of the project completes the district's environmental review of the action. Also, you may recall that Flume 45 was previously awarded grant funding. And with that, I will turn it over to Brian Deason to discuss the matter a little further.
Good morning, members of the board. Brian Deason, Environmental Review, Environmental Resources Supervisor. And thank you, Mike. Yes, I have in the past been fortunate enough to be able to come to the board and have good news regarding grants. Last year in July, for this project, the district was awarded a grant for phase one, which was environmental review, all the work that Mike has done in preparation of this EIR, as well as design for this project. That was through FEMA's program, the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities program, which is also referred to as BRIC. We received $250,000 for that phase one, and we were going to be eligible for phase two for construction as well. Next slide. However, just last month in April, FEMA announced that they are canceling the BRIC program. Not only going forward, but they also canceled the program for all previous awards. So of our $250,000 that we were awarded, we have submitted reimbursement requests for $150,000. We've been in close communication with Cal OES because they're our advocate. The FEMA awards money through Cal OES, and then the district is a subrecipient. So they've been great advocates for us throughout this. In our communications with them, they have indicated that we will be able to be reimbursed for that full $250,000 for our phase one. However, there are no funds available for construction under the BRIC program. We are working with them to evaluate if construction costs could be covered under another FEMA program, the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. There is a current notice of funding opportunity for the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program related to the wildfires down south. So we will be resubmitting this under that program. Next slide, please. So in light of the lack of funding for construction at this time, this project will likely be deferred until we can investigate other funding opportunities. Of course, flumes are always on our mind, and protecting our infrastructure from wildfire. So as an interim measure, Mike had referred to the El Dorado Canal Fuel Break project. So this is a project that involves creating a fuel break along the El Dorado Canal in an area where we have high concentration of wood flumes, including flume 45. Doug Venable, environmental review analyst, has been working to obtain all the regulatory approvals for that, working with the Forest Service. He just released an RFP to conduct the work. So we plan to be back to the board later this summer to award a contract to conduct that fuel break work, hopefully later this year and continuing into next.
Clearing a little above and below the canal.
Exactly. So as an interim measure, until we can replace it in concrete, we'll create a fuel break to help protect it. And I will turn it back over to Mike, because I know he's looking forward to reading this.
Okay, with all that being said, in conclusion, your board options for today are to, option 1, adopt the proposed resolution certifying that the final EIR was presented to the board of directors and the board has reviewed and considered the information contained in the final EIR prior to acting on the project, certifying that the final EIR reflects the independent judgment and analysis of the district and the information disclosed therein is accurate, adequate, and objective, certifying that the final EIR has been completed in compliance with CEQA, adopting the findings of fact and statement of overriding considerations, adopting the mitigation monitoring and reporting program, approving the Flume 45 critical water system infrastructure project in accordance with CEQA, specifying that the documents or other materials which constitute the record of proceedings upon which this decision is based shall be in the custody of the clerk to the board at district headquarters, and directing staff to file a notice of determination with the El Dorado County Clerk and the Governor's Office of Planning and Research. Your options today, option 2, take other action as directed by the board. Option 3, take no action. And staff's recommendation would be option 1.
I'll move option 1 with the request that when and if we end up demoing that historic rock wall, I believe each board member should get a commemorative boulder. No, but I mean, I'm joking about that, but I would like, if we can, look into, can we preserve a section of it, a few pieces of it, and put it out front with a plaque to help remember our history with some photographs and that sort of stuff. So just maybe in the back of our heads, see if there's a way to do that.
Yeah, we can do that. I think the intention in construction is to reuse a lot of that rock,
Okay.
but.
I was going to second that option, but I have a few comments on it.
Okay, let's hold those.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other board comments?
Well, thank you.
Now it's your turn.
This is called list top Division 4 Director to stop talking. Anyway, a couple questions that I had. What is the timeline? If this gets deferred, how long it'll be deferred, we have no idea, thank you to the bricks being canceled. And once we have adopted, and this is gone, we're putting it as a notice of determination at El Dorado County, we don't have to go through the CEQA and all those things again, so long as the project doesn't change.
Exactly, yes.
Right. So a question for you is there a timeline that would sit there? Say, this would be on hold for 2 years or 3 years?
2 years is potentially okay. I think I'll let John talk a little bit
Okay.
about timing though.
Great.
Hey, good morning, John Money, Director of Engineering. At this time, likely, this project will be pushed out past our 5 years, the deadline of our the planning horizon of our 5-year CIP.
On the CIP.
Correct.
Right.
Previously, both this and Flume 48 were both deferred to an unknown date.
Yeah.
Flume 48 is proceeding, that is being funded under the HMGP, or Hazard Mitigation Grant, by FEMA, and that money is still committed. So we're pursuing with phase 1 there. We will pursue Flume 48 until we hear otherwise. Again, as Brian Deason just said a couple minutes ago, that we are pursuing additional grant funding for Flume 45 as well. If that funding comes up, that obviously reprioritizes some of our CIPs, but right now we have more pressing needs with rebuilding the El Dorado Hills Water Treatment Plant, completing Sly Park Intertie, and eventually the Silver Lake Dam rebuild.
Okay, thank you. One other question. The fire, we're going to have fire reduction done on it just to kind of give it a safety threshold. It'll be interesting, how would we do that? Goats?
I know.
Because it's so high. It's just like, it's a very steep area.
Yes, it is going to be very challenging work.
Uh-huh.
Yes, we cast a broad net in advertising for these particular services, but it will likely be, it'll be hand treatments, chainsaws, but it will be challenging. Mhm.
If we had the new flume in place with the access road, it would make that mitigation a lot easier. Okay, Director Penn.
Just a comment that the suspension of the BRIC program is just an example of short-sightedness on the part of the federal government. These are the sort of projects that have real and meaningful impacts on lives and infrastructure, and just it's a disappointment that this funding source has been discontinued, and I hope we're successful in accessing funds through the hazard mitigation program.
Thank you. Any other director comments? Okay. Do we close the public hearing? Oh, any public comments, I guess, since it's a public hearing?
If members of the public would like to address the board on public hearing item number 13, please refer to the detailed instructions on page 2 of today's agenda. President Dwyer, it does not appear any members of the public are wishing to speak on public hearing item number 13, option 1, moved by Director Day and seconded by Director Anzini. Would you like for me to call for the vote?
Yes,
Or call the vote, excuse me.
Yes, please.
How do you vote, Division 1?
Aye.
Division 3?
Aye.
Division 4?
Aye.
Division 5?
Aye.
Division 2?
Aye.
Division 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, voting aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to information item number 14, our first quarter of this year financial update.
Good morning, President and members of the board. My name is Madison Franklin. I'm an administrative analyst in the finance department, and I'm here today presenting our first quarter financial update ending March 31st, 2025. Beginning with revenues by category, this table presents actual revenues versus budgeted figures for the quarter ending March 31st. As stated in the footnote under the table, water, wastewater, and recycled water sales are seasonally adjusted. All other categories' 3-month budget reflects 25% of the annual budget. For comparison, the table includes quarter 1 of 2024 on the left and quarter 1 of 2025 on the right. As of March 31st, 2025, total revenues stand at $31.3 million, which is approximately $4.3 million higher than the 3-month budget shown. Compared to this point last year, revenues have increased by $1.7 million. This next table is similar to the last slide. However, it presents the variances for year-over-year actuals instead of a yearly budget to actuals comparison. In the bottom right corner, you can see the year-over-year variance for the first quarter of $1.7 million. Notable year-over-year revenue increases include a $1.5 million increase in water, wastewater, and recycled water sales and services as a result of board-approved rate increases, a $1.2 million rise in property tax revenue, a $1 million rise in investment income. This is a result of interest earned on the 2024A bond acquired in November 2024, and an overall $1 million increase to grant and FEMA income, thanks to staff efforts in securing FEMA reimbursements. Other variances in revenues compared to this time last year include a year-over-year decrease in other income, primarily due to a one-time insurance reimbursement for storm damages received in 2024, which we do not expect to recur in 2025. Additionally, our sale of vehicles and equipment has decreased in 2025 following a significant inventory cleanup over the last couple of years.
Pardon me.
Yeah.
I have a question. Could we go back to the last slide? I'm just wondering, both in 2024 and 2025 on the property tax revenue, why both years such a large variance? I would think that's something that's relatively predictable. It's almost $5 million that we were, quote unquote, off on our projection.
Yes. So typically last year we did a true up in September. We have done a true up earlier this year to reflect the cash we've received so far. $9.421 million is the cash we have received, which is 52% about of our annual estimated property tax revenue.
If the board would like, we could seasonally adjust the property tax revenue because it's just one lump sum, and we could have levelized that off on a seasonally adjusted basis if you'd like to see that. But it just comes in 2 big payments.
Right.
And we know when they're coming.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that, to Director Day's point, and I think we've discussed this before, about doing some seasonalization. When we do forecasting, don't straight line it.
Yes.
If we know our water sales are higher in the summer, then get a historical representation of that and use that to predict our sales maybe a little more accurately in the future.
And we did do that for water, wastewater, and recycled water sales on this chart.
And we can do that on the property tax, just so it looks cleaner.
Right. And probably hydro too, because we know in the outage,
Right.
we aren't generating any power.
Yes.
Very good, thank you.
Yes. Okay, so I will continue with the other variances in revenue compared to this time last year. We had a year-over-year decrease in other income. Oh, excuse me, sorry. I've already said that one. We also have a variance in FCC revenue from prior year. This is only due to the variable nature of when FCCs are paid. The estimated total annual budget of $11 million is still considered accurate at this point in the year. Okay. This next table presents actual expenditures recorded by category as of March 31st versus the 3-month adopted budget. All categories' 3-month budget reflect 25% of the annual budget. Similarly to the first table presented, we have included quarter 1 of 2024 on the left and quarter 1 of 2025 on the right. As of March 31st, 2025, total expenditures are at $12.2 million, which is approximately $5.5 million under the 3-month adopted budget. Compared to this time last year, expenses have decreased by $2.4 million. As seen in the table, total expenses are comprised of materials and services and net personnel, which is made up of salary and benefits and labor offsets and reimbursements from developers. As of March 31st, personnel expenses are $7.8 million and materials and services are $4.4 million. Due to the highly seasonal nature of water district operations, expenditures do not occur evenly throughout the year, and more costs are expected to be incurred in the later quarters. In reviewing and analyzing current trends and projections, the district is currently on track to meet the overall annual expense budget by year end. We will now move on to review our overall 5-year financial plan. On November 12th, 2024, the board adopted the 2025 through 2029 5-year financial forecast. This next slide shows our 5-year financial forecast as it was adopted last November. It presents a multi-year view of the district's projected financial plans, offering a long-term perspective in contrast to the previous slides, which focused on current year actual performance. There have been no updates to the forecast at this time. I'd like to draw attention to the bottom portion of the financial forecast where you can see our debt service coverage ratios. We are meeting the debt covenants related to the bonds listed here as the 1.25 test and the 1.0 ratio test in all years listed. I did want to point out that the calculations in outer years include board-approved rate increases through 2028, as well as a $120 million debt issuance in 2027. This concludes our first quarter financial update, and staff will be back after the closure of the second quarter to provide another update.
Thank you very much. Any board questions for Madison?
Great.
Good job.
Thank
Nice
you.
job. Thank you very much. Any public comment on this item?
If members of the public would like to address the board on information item number 14, please refer to the instructions in today's agenda. President Dwyer, it does not appear there are any members of the public wishing to speak on information item number 14.
Okay, thank you very much. And let's move to information item number 15, the IMS, Irrigation Management Services.
Okay, good morning, members of the board. My name is Peter Heap. I'm the Meter Services Supervisor here at the district. And we're going to talk about our Irrigation Management Services program here. The board has requested staff to prepare an overview of the district's Irrigation Management Service program. And next slide, please. And so here's a bit of an overview. I'm going to be talking about the history of the IMS program with the background, the use of the neutron probe, the Series AI technology that we implemented here recently. Going to cover program costs for both of these programs, and then lastly, fee for service. And these are the board policies and administrative regulations that correspond to this. Okay, so just a bit of a background. The purpose of the IMS program is to provide a service to our growers to efficiently irrigate their crops. The district's been implementing this program way back in 1976. Between 1976 and 1980, EID worked with several other entities to gather and create the data necessary to develop an irrigation management system. In 1981, a grant was received from DWR to study the irrigation systems of all participating ranches. This study produced irrigation application rates for each of the growers. It was through this study that the program began suggesting duration as well as frequency of irrigation events to growers. Essentially, this program has remained unchanged for 40-plus years. Due to ongoing data validity concerns and numerous neutron probe failures, the district began looking into ways to provide better data to our growers. Ultimately, we found Series AI.
Before you go on,
Sure.
Peter, we have to calibrate, or we did have to calibrate the neutron probe on a regular basis?
Yeah, every year we have to take it down to Concord, down in the Bay Area, and get it calibrated and tested to make sure that it's safe to use and that it's, going to give us accurate readings.
So, yeah, I guess that's really the question, like on the gasoline pumps, they have the Bureau of Weights and Measures certify this is an accurate gallon coming out of the pump. Is there some kind of standard or sticker or
Well,
certification that the probe is accurate after we calibrate it?
yeah, there's not a sticker necessarily, but every year we do get it calibrated by a very specific company. I think they're the only ones in the western United States that can do it. So it's a very unique situation.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so to continue on the background, next slide, please. So in early 2023, the district began reaching out to our IMS customers, growers essentially, regarding the implementation of Series AI as an alternative to our legacy program. In May of that year, the district hosted a well-attended meeting with our growers where a representative from Series AI gave a presentation followed by a Q&A. That same year, the district implemented both the legacy and the Series AI programs in tandem for that 2023 season. March of the following year, the district was invited to the El Dorado Wine Grape Growers Association meeting, where another presentation was given on Series AI, followed by another Q&A.
Okay, Peter, I have to stop and ask another
Sure.
question. When we were running the programs in tandem, did they supply consistent data that agreed with each other, or were there inconsistencies?
I'm going to get to that.
Okay, thank you.
The secret in the sauce.
Nah,
Yeah, there's going to be a couple slides coming up that
Okay, I
will
thought I.
illustrate, I think, what you're looking for. Okay, so the district again began implementing both the Legacy and Series AI programs in tandem for the 2024 season. However, due to the complete failure of the probe in the first few weeks of the
I knew
season,
that.
yeah, we had to rely solely on Series AI to keep the program running.
So we really didn't ever get that validation.
Well, we ran it successfully for the 2023 season.
Okay.
And we had full intentions of doing it for a second season, and the probe completely failed.
So was the 2023 data compatible? Were they close to each other?
I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
We'll keep poking it.
He just wants to be at the podium.
How much does one of those neutron probes cost, a new one?
Oh, I think it's somewhere around 15,000, maybe 15 to 18, something like that.
Thank you.
Okay, so a little background on using the neutron probe with this IMS program. So again, beginning in 1976, the backbone of this program was the use of this probe. Each day of the growing season, a technician would transport the probe from farm to farm, collecting readings from each of the probe sites. At the end of each day, reports would be provided to the growers with the soil moisture calculations collected that day, as well as suggested irrigation run dates and times. This process, again, remained fundamentally unchanged until the neutron probe was retired in 2024.
I need a clarification on that one. It says at the end of, we didn't probe every site every day, did we?
So the way it works is kind of like reading meters, for example. You've got a technician that goes out to each farm at different days, right? So not all the farms are getting read.
Every day.
No.
Yeah, I had the
It's-
privilege of being able to go out with them and do the neutron probe thing. It was very interesting.
So essentially, each of the farms are being read weekly.
Okay, thanks. Because that kind of gives the impression it's a daily,
Yeah, we're doing it 5 days a week,
I
but it's
got it.
spread out.
So it's a single probe that's taken from site to site?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so depending on how large of a orchard or vineyard we're looking at, you know, Boger, for example, has many more sites than some of the smaller places. So it just kind of depends on how large.
Okay.
they call irrigation blocks. Is that right?
Okay, so a little background on using Series AI for the program. Series AI uses aerial imaging that is used for farm-wide plant health monitoring, leak detection, clogged irrigation line detection, and topographical mapping. It also provides field-specific water demand maps to help guide irrigation scheduling for grapes, wine grapes, basically. Series AI uses a fixed-wing piloted aircraft to fly over the district service area, gathering data every 2 weeks. Growers can now see how all the plants are doing, not just a couple of the sites that we happen to monitor. That data is then accessed by the growers via a web portal or an app on their phone. Growers also have control over what types of data they see, and they can generate their own custom reports. And then lastly, if technical support is needed, it's also provided by Series AI directly to the growers if they require any additional assistance or training. Okay, so this is an example of a note that Series AI sent to a grower regarding a possible leak. If you look at the image on the left, that's basically showing a normal crop. The image in the middle, you can see right there below that pin is that dark blue line indicating a possible leak. And then 2 weeks later, you can see how it's gotten even larger. Okay, so in this slide, this is a zoomed out view of that same area. And you can see again that deep blue line running down the hill there. What you can also see is that orange straight line going up to the upper right. Yeah. That's indicating that block of grapes is essentially that irrigation line is potentially clogged.
The block that's all blue, is that indicate it was recently irrigated and there's a lot of moisture there?
Yeah, that's indicating, you know, good plant health.
Okay.
Okay. So in this slide, this is another example of a note Series AI sent to a grower regarding an area that's under stress. And so that left image, you could see that rectangular block is in red, significantly stressed. The middle image looks a little better. You've got some greens and some yellows in there, indicating a little healthier plant. And then the image on the right is even better. Okay, now this next one is kind of going to address what you guys were asking about as far as comparing the probe to the Series technology. And so note the location of the probe sites with those white arrows. So those are 3 probe sites, and then there's one to the right there too. Yeah, right there. Okay, and then if you look to the lower right of that image, you could see that same red block on the lower right there. Okay, now you can see it in close proximity to that probe site just above it, yep, right there. So this is an area in question that would likely not have been caught with the neutron probe. So what we're seeing is that and I kind of briefly went over it a little bit earlier, the Series AI is farm-wide imaging. So you're getting literally the big picture. The Neutron probe uses individual sites within the property that is giving you specific areas within the vineyard or the orchard. So you could see that upper right arrow. So that probe site looks like things are going well. You know, the plant health looks very, very good, except right below it, there's an issue. So it's the technology does date back to the 70s. And, you know, you can imagine how your phone technology has changed from 1976 to today.
More probe sites.
Could be. Okay, in this next slide, this is an example of a note that Series AI sent to a grower regarding possible clogged emitter. So and it's a little hard to see, but the image on the left, right there where that white pin is, you could see the green line, the horizontal green line. And 2 weeks later, I believe it's 2 weeks later, yeah, you can see how it's gone red. So you're getting not necessarily real time, but it's pretty close. Okay, so here we'll talk about the program cost to run both the Legacy and the Series AI. The Legacy IMS program utilizes the probe, had an all-in annual cost of just over $61,000, which includes vehicle costs. You know, we take the Jeep out to drive through these orchards and vineyards. Software licensing, regulatory compliance, employee wages, and the probe leak testing and calibration that we do yearly that I spoke about earlier. The IMS program run with Series AI for the 2025 contract is just over $35,000 with trace amounts of staff needed, staff time. Okay. So the fee for service, so through our board practices and administrative regulations, the district aims to recuperate costs associated with services provided by the district. The IMS program is currently a free service that the district provides to approximately 50 commercial agricultural customers. In accordance with our board policies and administrative regulations, staff will review the cost of this program and will work on implementing a fee-for-service in the coming year, 2026. And then lastly, should growers wish to utilize the Neutron probe technology, they can do so by contracting directly with a service provider or look into other technologies that may help them manage their irrigation use. Okay. And so if there's any more questions.
I'm sure there are.
Sure.
Let's open it to board comments or questions.
Yeah, a couple questions regarding the monitoring of that. Now, right now, we're thinking we don't charge anything.
Correct.
All right, and we're going to do some kind of policy to charge people for the service.
That's
A
correct.
question, it seems like to me, having probes, this is a long time ago kind of situation, it worked well, but today's efforts, I mean, on my phone, I can take a picture of my plant, and it tells me if it needs water. And it seems to me maybe drones can do this, and an application can be set up. I mean, there's many ways of doing it, but drones with a high caliber
Yep.
camera could do the same thing.
We did look at that as well. So there were a
Okay.
couple different things that we looked at, and we did look at possibly using drones for that as well. The cost, believe it or not, was less expensive to use an actual humanly piloted Cessna, essentially, right?
Like a dust cropper going
They
back.
can take off
Yeah.
back and forth and cover things and land versus if you're doing drones, you'd probably have to move from site to site to site.
Correct. So this is a lot more efficient in that aspect. to your point, because they can just take off, they fly over our area, which is really not that big compared to what they do in the Central Valley.
Right.
And you know, we don't have to have somebody, you know, in a vineyard when it's wet and muddy and sliding into things, and so there's some safety issues as well. And I was going to have Jennifer go back a few slides to maybe slide 7 or somewhere near there.
Does the pilot contract with EID or with Series AI?
With Series AI.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And so
Director Anzini, I think your point's valid. As we increase in technology,
Right.
there's going to be more and more opportunities to try and become more efficient and more accurate.
Yeah, just see, you know, watching how technology, and of course, the magic here is AI at the end of that. And there's so many things that are changing so quickly.
Right.
That, I mean, we're not being asked money right now, but we're looking at some small improvement for the customer base of our growers.
Sure.
So basically, right now, we're providing a convenience fee, and I would say an appreciation fee of thank you for being in the agricultural business, but how far do we go? We have a very small group, as far as I know.
Well, and I glossed over this, and I skip it every time I practice this presentation, which these two photos mashed up together is really kind of says it all. That's Dr. Campbell on the left in like the mid-70s.
Right.
And that's one of my guys in 2023.
Yeah, let's go back to the old meter readers with the little discs and things.
Sure.
But yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
So I just wanted to loop back to that.
Okay, any other board comments? Or let's give Paul a turn first, but we'll save the expert to.
Yeah.
Well, the questions I was going to ask have already been articulated, and I really am curious to see what Chuck's got to say. But, you know, as having the majority of the agriculture in my division, this is a lot of interest. I am here at the Aqua Conference, and I note that Cal Poly, Chuck's alma mater, has its Irrigation Training and Research Center. So I will be probing them for information on not only current but future technologies.
Thank you. Okay, Director Mansfield.
Yeah. Well, first off, I'd like to commend both yourself and Bill, who's in the room, for your proactive nature in finding the Aries services. Had you not had that spool up time to have it in place when the probe failed, the local growers would have had nothing. So I think it's important that we highlight their efforts. I think it's generally accepted that the neutron probe, although an old technology, is still the gold standard for measuring soil moisture. And at the end of the day, that's what I've gleaned is what the growers really want when they make a go, no-go decision for irrigating a block. So if the goal really is conservation, I think it is important that we have the metric that practitioners are most likely to rely on and trust if they're going to hold off on an irrigation. So it would have been nice to run both systems at the same time. We didn't get that opportunity. What the fix is for that, not entirely sure at this moment. But the other thing I want to point out is the Aries service does not make any recommendations. It's not predictive in its data, correct? Whereas the probe, the current IMS program does make predictions and recommendations.
Bill, you want to come up to help me with this one? He was hoping that he could just sit back, but I said I might need you.
I'm Bill Cassidy. As far as the predictive nature goes, for our wine grapes, it does offer, it doesn't come out and tell you, hey, you need to water on this date for this length of time, but it does show water loss, and it allows the grower to say, okay, this is how much I've actually lost, specifically for wine grapes, I want to be clear. They're working on doing it for other products as well. You know, it is, I would like to say an apples to oranges comparison, but it's really in my view, more of an apples to a box of oranges comparison. It is completely different data. You can see that the images that you're getting of that whole crop compared to individual sites at each location. There is no, I know that it was asked if the data matched up. There is nothing to match up because they are completely different. And I recognize that it's going to be hard for growers that have been dealing with one set of data since 1976 to transition into something completely different, frankly. But I believe ultimately it offers a better product to our customers and saves the district money all at the same time. So.
Yeah, I mean, with the probe, yeah, it's, as you mentioned, it's site-specific information, and 100 yards away, there might be some rock in the way, and you don't get a good reading of what's happening beyond that. You'd have to do more probes to get more accurate. This is not necessarily reading down deep with the Series AI, but it's telling you what's happening with the plants more. And it's pretty cool technology of recognizing that drip lines might be out or something like that. And I just know, being in landscape, I know all the men and women that are do ag in our community you have to go out and look too, and see what's going on. But one question, or one thing you brought up was trying to charge for it, and it's less expensive than the probe, and I don't know if now would be a really good time, given that the difficulties that growers are having, for us to try. It's a small amount of money, and I'd say we just continue to run it as a pilot for a while before we think about trying to start charging for it.
The idea, Director Day, was to not do anything this year, but propose the fee for next year.
Along those lines, I have a suggestion. The technology, probably the very best assessment of the health of the crop is the grower himself, who goes out in the field and knows whether, I guess, not being in agriculture myself, but I have a great deal of confidence that the grower can look and feel and touch the crop and decide whether it's stressed for water or not, based on experience. Having said that, I think that we can give them tools to help, because crop is a big area. You can't go touch every vine. And there's been some interest at the water agency in this program. Matter of fact, they run the program for areas outside our service area. So I would suggest that we work with the water agency and the Resources Conservation District, RCD, and the grower groups, and we host a forum on crop irrigation. Do it in the fall when the farmers are available, but before we set our rates for next year, and look at all the technologies that are out there. Because the problem with both of these, as I see it, just old Pat, is they're both a point in time. It depends on when you go measure it, once a week, once every 2 weeks for the airplane. It's still just a point in time, and the predictive nature, as you brought up, is we're behind. So by the time you say the crops are stressed and we need to apply more water, you already lost some growing ability, I guess. I'll defer to you.
Yeah, I think an example to illustrate that, some of the constituents have given me feedback that in the case of, say, stone fruit, you may be on an irrigation cycle that's more often than every 2 week period. So that 2 week data point is not enough to inform your irrigation decision.
So I did a very little bit of research, and there are other systems out there that are real time, as you said, report to the grower's computer, cell phone, that are based on internet stuff, connectivity, where the growers can really get a real-time report right now, and maybe even automate the irrigation system via that report. So all I'm suggesting is that this wasn't a decision item anyway, but it was a discussion item or information item, is that we co-host a forum where we can look at all the alternatives and work with the growers to decide which ones they want to purchase, which ones we might want to support in some way for conservation. And I will work with the water agency to try to make that happen.
No, I think that's a really good point. You know, we were feeling the pinch because that probe was having so many failures just time and time again. And we purchased it new. You were asking how much it cost. We purchased it new, I want to say in 2019, 2018. So it's relatively not that old, really. But we just were having so many problems. And because of that, we started looking elsewhere to figure out, well, you know, what's an alternative? What new technology could we implement that would, you know, maybe give us more consistent data? It's going to be different data than with the probe, but it would be more consistent. And, you know, since we started with the Series AI, so far, the plane hasn't run out of gas.
Oh dear.
So, you know, but again, there's other technologies out there,
And we should explore them, and that was my point.
I get
Look
that.
at Boost tomorrow.
And I think it sounds like from Chuck's feedback, it's the interest in having a more predictive capability of knowing, kind of more like the old way where we were making recommendations of when and how much was helpful.
So long as they're accurate. And I think that's part of what we were beginning to struggle with, which prompted your research in this change, which,
You know, if we're giving you guys data, we want to feel good that that data is accurate. And we didn't feel that way with the probe. It was really frustrating. And, you know, every time it goes down, we got to drive it down to Concord, and we'll lose a day or two depending on what the nature of the repair is. So then whatever growers are scheduled for that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they're not getting any data. And so that was a problem too, because we wanted consistency too. So
And as I understood, the growers weren't reporting back their actual usage data we needed to make that comparison, and the UC Davis, I think, is what we were using as the the computer program. I'm just, from my rides out with you, trying to recall all those details.
So we've got data that resides basically in 3 different places, or that we pull from 3 different places. One would be the Neutron probe. 2 would be CIMIS weather stations. And 3 would be our in-house program that we had made that houses all that. That data is amalgamated each day, and a report would be sent out to each grower that was read that day, which would tell them soil moisture calculations and give them a predicted, we suggest you irrigate on this day for this length of time. What you're referring to about getting the data back is we would ask for growers to respond with days and lengths of time that they would irrigate. The vast majority don't give us that back.
Okay?
If I may, President Dwyer, I like your idea of helping the growers look for different options for a cost-effective option for them to do. The reason we added the fee discussion in this, it's the only service we provide that we don't charge a fee for, and I want to try and be as consistent as possible. So having that forum, the growers could say, well, yeah, we want this program EID does, and we're willing to pay for it, or no, we like this X, Y, and Z AI program that so-and-so provides, and they may want to invest in it, but it will give the growers the options to do what's best for them as
And
well,
knowledge.
and comply with our fee schedule.
Okay.
So thank you.
One just quick final comment before we call public comment on this item. In my experience in the aircraft overhaul industry, we use neutron radiography to detect moisture inside the honeycomb structures of flaps, ailerons, parts of the wings. So it's an interesting technology, but it has challenges.
Yeah, it certainly does. I've been certified to use it, so I went through all the training and it is interesting. The regulatory stuff is a whole nother wrinkle. The state of California will just show up, well, for example, on Thanksgiving week. I was glad to be here to help them. And
Sure you
and so there's all kinds of things that are involved with using that probe.
Okay. Well, let's go get smarter, all of us, and see what we can get together. With any other board comments? Any public comment?
Pete, hey, Bill.
Good morning.
Members of the board. My name's Kirk Taylor. I was IMS coordinator at EID for 5 years. I helped implement some of the program. Your history's a little bit off, Pete. If you want to talk to me about it, I can walk you through what the history was. I'd also like to say that in 1986, the Bureau of Reclamation required EID to look at the success of this program. The contractor at the time was able to do a water use look at similar years before and after the implementation of the program, and the Bureau gave EID a 2,500 acre-feet water savings with the program in place. So the program with the neutron probe was very effective. I know that there's new technology out there. The series program, actually, there hasn't been a flight yet this year.
No,
The
not
first,
yet.
yeah, the first flight is this Thursday.
Possibly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was actually out looking at my orchards, and I have a neutron probe. I work with the water agency. I have 2 blocks that I need to start the irrigations on by this Friday. So somebody growing stone fruits down in Gold Hill, you probably should be irrigating already if you are want to continue the healthier crops. The series information, I think it's weighted towards the end of the season when most people aren't irrigating. If they could shift that to start like the middle of April to the 1st of May, it would provide a better coverage of what we need. And also, once every 2 weeks is good for wine grapes, which we've had the discussion, but for the tree crop growers, that information is not timely enough. So there should be, if we can get weekly flights, that would probably double the cost of the program, but that would provide a lot more information than just every other week later in the year. Any questions?
Thank you.
No.
Okay. Any other board comments? There's no vote on this item.
Just that I'll concur with your suggestion, Pat. I think we need to pursue this, look at alternatives and look, and I guess keep our mind open to, no one has actually said it, but I'm getting the sense that maybe the neutron probe method still could be valid. And,
Or, again, we need to explore all options
Right.
because it could be complementary to,
Correct.
you do this and that.
right,
I don't know.
One more comment. Jennifer, can you show that slide again that Pete had up there? Slide 7, I think it was. The old neutron.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
President Dwyer, typically we don't,
Yeah.
Go back. We give you
Okay.
one shot. but-
Well, the 2 pictures, the old picture and the new picture, in that second picture, there was a white box. That was a program that we got grant funding for, where we put in basically gypsum block sensors. The data recorder was that white box you were seeing. It was collecting data every 4 hours. We had the program set up where the grower could go out, record that information off the data recorder, come back into his house, submit the information to EID, and get an updated irrigation report based on the information provided by the growers. It was decided that it wasn't cost effective at that point in time, but looking at some of these costs, I think replacing sensors would be a lot cheaper. And you can get almost continuous
Hopefully
information.
that'll come up in our forum.
The only problem with these sensors and other types of technologies where you're looking at soil contact that is required, you have to somehow get those calibrated, usually using something like a neutron probe or a pressure bomb.
Okay, thank you very much.
Maybe just one final, not to beat a dead horse here, but, also I think having these tools are important when you look back at, say, the Caldor fire, where preserving lake levels at Sly Park became critical. These programs in any form, I think, are important to build partnership with our ratepayers and big users so that they can quickly, immediately self-curtail use to preserve resources for the community as a whole. I think that's something the board should contemplate.
Be like an orange, yellow,
Yeah.
green warning. All right.
Any other board comment, any other public comment?
Are there any additional, if any additional members of the public would like to address the board, please refer to the instructions on page 2 of today's agenda.
Great.
President Dwyer does not appear there are any additional members of the public wishing to speak on information item number 15.
Okay, thank you guys very much for the educational.
Thank you.
Now we'll move to action item number 16 for the collection system upgrade.
All right. Thank you. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Andrew Shaw, Senior Engineer, and I'll be talking about this recommendation for award of a construction inspection contract, as well as a funding request for the 2024 Collections System Stabilization Project. A little bit of history on this project. In February of last year, we awarded a design contract to Waterworks. Later that year, we adopted the 2025 to 2029 CIP, which included this project. And, earlier in February, we asked for an additional $20,000 for capitalized labor for the design of this project. And next slide, thank you. And lastly, in March, the companion project to this project was awarded the construction and construction inspection for the collections rehabilitation project. So this issue began New Year's Eve storm of 2022, where the storm exposed or worsened several structural deficiencies within our collection system. These were temporarily addressed by our operations staff, but this project will provide a permanent solution to maintain regulatory compliance. So the background, we were hit by an unprecedented storm event December 30th through 31st of 2022, and the storm actually dislodged a manhole cone off of one of the manholes in the Deer Creek sewer main, which significantly impacted the Deer Creek wastewater treatment plant. And in the next slide, you can see some pictures that were taken following the event. The picture on the left shows the moved manhole cone where it's not supposed to be. And the picture on the right shows crews out there where it was originally located.
What distance are we talking about? How far did it move that?
I believe it was several hundred feet.
Wow.
As a result of the treatment plant being so affected, the district was issued a notice of violation from the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board for the unauthorized discharge to Deer Creek. In response to this letter, we responded saying that with an assessment of the affected sewer infrastructure within the FEMA floodplain, some proposed improvements to the infrastructure, as well as a proposed completion schedule. And as I mentioned, this project addresses many of the issues. The scope of this project will be to stabilize 8 sewer manholes with their associated pipeline, as well as 4 additional pipeline sections. Some things that were considered as this project was developed was bypassing requirements to maintain the sewer flow during work, as well as some in-water work, as well as impact to the community. This project, the construction was advertised earlier in March with a mandatory pre-bid meeting held last month. Bids were also due last month, and the district received one bid from Doug Veerkamp General Engineering, just under $1.5 million. Our engineer's estimate, as you can see, was just under $2 million. We also put out a request for proposals for construction inspection in March, with proposals due last month. We received 3 proposals, and staff is going to recommend the proposal from JLR Environmental Consultants for $96,000.
Do you have a theory as to why we only got one bid on the construction portion?
I do not. At the pre-bid meeting, there were 4 contractors present, so I am not sure why we only received one bid.
Okay, thank you.
For construction engineering services, staff is going to recommend Waterworks Engineering. They were the designers of the project, and they will help provide with submittal review. They'll respond to requests for information or RFIs. There is a small easement that the district needs to acquire from the Cameron Park Community Services District that was missed when the district first was given control of the Community Service District's facilities back, I believe, in the 70s. So we're in communication with the CSD on this, and they're supportive, and we're working through this at the moment. And then at the very end, they will prepare the record drawings for us, and the proposed cost is $100,000. This project for environmental review is exempt from CEQA under Class 1, the maintenance and repair of existing facilities. However, due to the proximity of the project to Deer Creek and other waterways, staff pursued and acquired the permits that you can see from Section 401 and 404 of the Clean Water Act, as well as a permit from California Department of Fish and Wildlife. For public outreach, we are coordinating with the Cameron Park CSD as well as affected property owners. The contractor will also provide notice prior to construction activities. We have also acquired 2 encroachment permits, one from the county and one from Caltrans for work that impacts the right-of-way. So the project funding, you can see everything here amounts to just under $2 million. The total planned funding for both this project and the rehabilitation project was $2.28 million. So in order to fund both projects, staff recommends deferring the, excuse me, my mind just went blank. Remind me, which project was it? I apologize.
Hi, Liz Carrington here, Engineering Manager for the district. Yeah, we've taken a look at a few of our big projects on the CIP that are listed for 2025. Strolling Hills was another project that had about $3.5 million in 2025 spending. We have had a few delays on the design, and so we worked it in so that we were able to bring forward the stabilization project as well as the rehabilitation project. And we will be pushing out the Strolling Hills project to probably come back to the board for construction award, I would say later in 2025. Most of the funding to be spent in 2026. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, Liz. So, options for the board. Option 1, award contracts in the not-to-exceed amounts of $1,472,040 to Doug Veerkamp General Engineering Incorporated for construction, $96,000 to JLR Environmental Consultants for construction inspection, and $100,000 to Waterworks Engineers for construction engineering services, and authorize project funding of $125,000 for capitalized labor and $179,304 for contingency, for a total funding request of $1,972,344 for the 2024 Collection Stabilization Project, project number 24008.03, and staff recommends option 1.
I'll move option one with one suggestion. When you had 4 contractors at the pre-meeting and we only got 1 bid, I think it would behoove us to reach out to those other contractors and ask them, how come you decided not to bid on it? Mainly to see if was there, is there some consistent answer that they're giving? May have been internal issues they had, nothing to do with us, but maybe it was. And I think it's good to follow up and find out if they're willing to share that with us.
Thank
I'll
you.
go ahead and
Do
do
I have
that.
a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any board comments? I have one. The water agency is tasked with managing storm runoff water. I think we should, and they have recently teamed with the El Dorado County Department of Transportation to see if they can save poor Reds from flooding in the town of El Dorado, Mud Springs. But I think we should approach them and say, we'd like to partner with you to have a study of the Deer Creek situation and see if there's a better way to manage the storm runoff. And that's kind of in their ballpark. It's not really a requirement, a mission for us. So I'd be happy to take this to the water agency and say, can you help us? Okay, any public comment on this item?
If members of the public would like to address the board on action item number 16, please refer to the instructions within today's agenda. President Dwyer, does not appear there are any members of the public wishing to speak on action item number 16. Option 1, moved by Director Day and seconded by Director Anzini. Would you like me to call the vote?
Yes, please.
How do you vote? Division 1,
Aye.
Division 3,
Aye.
Division 4,
Aye.
Division 5,
Aye.
Division 2,
Aye.
Divisions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, voting aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we will move to closed session, items A, B, and C. And exactly how long do you think that's going to take?
Doing my job for me. It's great. Thanks, President Dwyer. I anticipate that the closed sessions will require at least 30 minutes.
At least 30 minutes. Okay, thank you very much. We'll move to closed session.
So for the purpose of this meeting, the board will not report back prior to 11:15 a.m. However, it could be later.
Could and probably will be. Out of closed session, council, do you have anything to report?
Yes, thanks, President Dwyer. I do have one item to report. Under closed session item A, on a motion by Director Day, seconded by Director Mansfield, the board voted unanimously to appoint a new general manager, the identity of whom, subject to the negotiation of employment terms and conditions. The general manager's identity will be disclosed if and when that person deems appropriate, and we'll make the announcement at that point in time. On closed session B, the board provided direction to its negotiators but took no reportable action. And finally, on closed session C, again, the board provided direction to staff but took no reportable action, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Okay, any assignments, Jennifer?
Actually, Director Dwyer, President Dwyer has directed staff that during the fall, we will hold a forum that includes the Water Agency, RCD, and the growers to discuss the IMS program.
Instead of us holding, I'd prefer to say.
Co-host.
Participate and support. I think the water agency should be the lead agency for that forum.
What you're going to take to them. and suggest.
Yes, yes, I will.
And then we have some minor direction to staff regarding Flume 45 and then the runoff.
Just to go back to the other one on the IMS, and part of that was for staff to look at alternative.
Director Day?
For staff to look at alternative methods, as many as possible, so that can be discussed at this hoped-for forum.
Right. Anything else? Okay.
No,
Meet-
sir.
Meeting adjourned at 5 to noon, or maybe 6.
11:55 a.m.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Jennifer.